When the name Barron Trump is mentioned, most people still picture a tall, quiet teenager standing slightly behind his famous father. Unlike Ivanka, Don Jr. or Eric Barron has never chased the spotlight, never held a microphone at a rally, never delivered fiery speeches to electrify the crowd. He has remained almost invisible, tucked away from the chaos of politics, growing up in the shadows of the Trump empire. And yet, precisely because of this silence, his presence carries an air of mystery that the public cannot ignore. As Donald Trump charges once again toward the battlefield of the 2024 election, one question has begun to surface, whispered in political circles and across online forums: could Barron, the youngest and most enigmatic Trump, be his father's secret card? The idea feels both unlikely and irresistible. On the one hand, Barron has shown little sign of craving the brutal arena of politics. On the other, his youth, his unique position as Trump's only child with Melania, and his towering figure, both literal and symbolic, make him an asset that no strategist can entirely dismiss. Think about it. In an election that will likely be defined by image narrative and generational contrast, what could be more powerful than unveiling a new Trump one who is untainted by scandal, unscarred by years of partisan warfare, and still wrapped in the mystique of the unknown? Barron's mere appearance, standing beside his father, or even just stepping into the public eye, could reshape the way millions perceive the Trump dynasty. So here's the question we open with: is Barron Trump simply a quiet teenager content to stay on the sidelines? Or is he in fact the secret weapon that Donald Trump has been keeping in reserve for the final battle of 2024? Before we dive into this captivating story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. That way you won't miss any of our exclusive stories about power, wealth, and the hidden truths behind the world's most talked about figures. From the very beginning, Barron Trump's childhood unfolded in a world unlike that of most presidential children. While the offspring of political dynasties are often paraded before the cameras, smiling at rallies, waving from podiums, shaking hands with supporters, Barron's life took the opposite route. Under the watchful eye of his mother, Melania Trump, he was deliberately shielded from the harsh glare of the media. Melania, fiercely protective and famously private, made it her mission to ensure that her son would not be consumed by the endless appetite of the press. When Donald Trump stepped into the Oval Office in 2017, Barron was just 10 years old. Yet unlike Sasha and Malia Obama, who were frequently visible alongside their parents during public events, Barron remained hidden behind the heavy curtains of the White House. Melania chose not to immediately move to Washington after the inauguration, instead staying in New York so Barron could finish his school year in peace. This decision spoke volumes to her. Preserving her son's normal childhood mattered more than political symbolism. For years, Barron rarely appeared in front of the cameras. There were no playful photo ops on the White House lawn, no carefully staged holiday portraits broadcast across the nation. Even at official state events, his appearances were fleeting, almost ghost-like. Sometimes the public caught only a glimpse of him walking alongside his parents, towering above Melania as he grew taller each year. The silence surrounding Barron became its own story. Every rare photograph sparked waves of speculation. Every public sighting felt like a clue to a puzzle no one could quite solve. And it is exactly this silence, this almost intentional invisibility, that has amplified the fascination around him. In an age when every political family is dissected by the 24-hour news cycle, Barron remains the blank page in the Trump narrative. He is the heir who has not yet spoken, the son whose story is still unwritten. This absence of noise, paradoxically, has made him even louder in the imagination of the public. People do not simply see Barron, they wonder about him. They project onto him their theories, their hopes, their fears, as though he is a mirror reflecting the mysteries of the Trump dynasty. By the time Barron Trump stepped into his late teenage years, one detail became impossible to ignore: his extraordinary height and striking presence. Towering above nearly everyone around him, Barron has reportedly grown to over 2 meters tall, an almost regal figure who commands attention even in silence. Whenever he appears in public, whether walking beside Melania or standing in the background of a political event, the cameras inevitably find him. He does not need to speak or even gesture. His sheer physical presence demands notice. But it isn't only his height that sets him apart. There is something in Barron's demeanor, reserved, composed, almost detached, that sharply contrast with the loud, combative personalities of his older siblings. While Don Jr. and Eric dive headfirst into political battles, trading barbs on social media and firing up crowds at rallies, Barron seems to exist in another world entirely. He is the silent observer, a young man whose image is defined not by controversy or spectacle, but by restraint. This contrast has become even more striking as the Trump family continues to occupy the public stage. Ivanka polished and ambitious projects the aura of a future leader. Don Jr. and Eric embody the fiery loyalty of foot soldiers in their father's cause. Tiffany, though quieter, still embraces moments in the spotlight. And then there is Barron, the one who does none of these things, yet somehow draws more curiosity than any of them. His mystery is his magnetism. His refusal to play the game of attention makes him paradoxically the most watched of them all. Observers often note that Barron's appearance symbolizes a generational shift within the Trump dynasty. He does not resemble the brash, media-trained style of the 1980s and 1990s Trumps. Instead, he represents something new, a tall, refined modern figure who could be reshaped into whatever role the family or history requires. In a family where noise has often been the currency of power, Barron's quiet presence has become its own form of power. For nearly a decade, the Trump name has been more than just a family surname. It has become a political brand, a dynasty constantly in the public eye. Donald Trump has not only positioned himself as a central figure on the American stage, but has also drawn his children into that spotlight, transforming them into recognizable faces of the movement. Ivanka, polished and eloquent, served as a senior advisor in the White House, often seen as the bridge between her father's hard edge and a softer, more modern image. Don Jr. emerged as the loudest warrior, carrying his father's populist rhetoric into rallies and social media battles, firing off attacks with the energy of a seasoned campaigner. Eric, while less flamboyant, still played his part as a loyal operator behind the scenes, helping sustain the Trump empire and keeping the brand alive. Together, these siblings created an image of a family dynasty that not only embraced politics but thrived on it. They embodied the Trump brand, flashy, relentless, always visible, always vocal. And then standing apart from all of this is Barron, the youngest, the quietest, the one who has remained completely untouched by the machinery of political theater. Barron's absence from the stage has paradoxically made him even more intriguing. In a family where every child has stepped forward to claim a role in the dynasty, he is the exception, the unknown variable. People cannot help but ask, what does Barron think of all this? Will he one day step into the limelight like his siblings, or will he carve a different path entirely? In politics, mystery can be as powerful as visibility, and Barron's decision, or perhaps his mother's decision, to stay in the background has transformed him into something rare in the Trump universe, a blank canvas. Unlike his siblings, who have already been defined by years of public appearances and partisan battles, Barron remains undefined. That very ambiguity has made him the most fascinating piece of the Trump puzzle. As Donald Trump charges into the 2024 election, one reality is unavoidable. His image is both his greatest weapon and his greatest liability. After two bruising, polarizing campaigns, one victorious in 2016 and one chaotic in 2020, Trump has become a figure who inspires fierce loyalty from his base, but equally fierce opposition from his critics. He is the fighter, the disruptor, the man who promises to tear down the establishment brick by brick. But at the same time, that hard edge has left little room for warmth, empathy, or softness, qualities that often sway undecided voters. This is where Barron Trump could become more than just a quiet presence. Unlike his siblings, who are deeply entangled in politics, Barron represents something untouched, the side of Trump that is not about power or confrontation, but about family. When the cameras catch Donald walking beside his youngest son, the image is strikingly different. The hardened political warrior suddenly looks like a father, protective and human. That contrast could be invaluable in a campaign where Trump needs to soften his brand without losing his strength. The idea of Trump as not only a leader, but also a parent could resonate in ways his advisors have long sought. Voters may disagree with his policies, even dislike his style, but family is a universal language. Seeing Barron by his side reminds the public that, beneath the armor of politics, Trump is still a father raising a son. It adds depth to his character, transforming him from the caricature of a tough, relentless fighter into a man who carries responsibilities beyond the White House and the campaign trail. In an election defined by narratives, Barron's quiet presence could subtly shift the Trump story. Not the ruthless disruptor, not just the businessman turned politician, but the father of a new generation. That image, simple, human, relatable, might just be the secret ingredient Trump needs in 2024. Born in 2006, Barron Trump belongs to Generation Z, the digital native generation that grew up with smartphones, social media, and a world where information travels at the speed of a swipe. Unlike his father, who built his image in the era of television and tabloids, Barron represents the future, a young man shaped by an entirely different cultural landscape. And in politics, this generational gap matters. Gen Z is emerging as a powerful voting bloc, one that has already started to influence elections with its progressive ideals, skepticism of traditional authority, and appetite for authenticity. Donald Trump has long struggled to connect with younger voters. His brash style, combative tone, and old-school branding often fail to resonate with people under 30. But Barron could quietly shift that narrative. Simply by being present, he offers a bridge between his father's movement and a generation that might otherwise tune it out. His age, his quiet demeanor, and his status as someone still forming his own identity make him relatable in a way that his older siblings cannot be. Imagine the optics Trump not just as a 78-year-old former president, but as the father of a Gen Z son navigating the same world as millions of young Americans. A son who understands memes, digital culture, and the rhythm of the online generation, even if he rarely shows it publicly. That presence alone could humanize Trump in the eyes of younger voters, reframing him not as a distant, outdated figure, but as someone still tied to the next generation. In a campaign where every detail counts, Barron may never need to deliver a speech or give an interview. His mere existence as part of Gen Z is a silent but powerful signal. The Trump brand is not only rooted in the past, it has a future. When it comes to Barron Trump, one figure has always stood quietly but firmly in the background: Melania Trump. As a mother, she has been unwavering in her determination to shield her only son from the harsh spotlight of politics and the relentless eye of the press. Unlike her husband, who thrives on attention and controversy, Melania has always chosen discretion. For years, she ensured Barron remained a private figure, away from rallies, interviews, and the constant swirl of cameras. Every rare glimpse of him walking beside his parents or captured by a long-lens photographer felt almost accidental, a fleeting look into a world carefully guarded by his mother. But in politics, timing is everything. If Barron were ever to step into the public arena during the 2024 campaign, it would not be a casual appearance, it would be a carefully calculated decision. And behind that decision, many would see Melania's influence. She knows the power of optics, the emotional weight of family imagery. A father fighting for the White House while his towering teenage son stands proudly by his side would not just be a photograph, it would be a symbol. It would project not only leadership, but also humanity, not only ambition, but also devotion. For Donald Trump, a man often seen as combative and polarizing, this kind of imagery could be transformative. The presence of Barron could help reframe him, reminding voters that beyond the courtroom battles and political speeches, he is also a father, one who protects mentors and shares his journey with the next generation. And for Melania, allowing Barron to step into this role would mean trusting that the political gain outweighs the personal risks. Her silence has always been strategic, her moves deliberate. If she were to allow Barron into the 2024 spotlight, it would almost certainly be a chess move, not an accident. The message would be clear: the Trumps are not just a political dynasty, but a family standing united, protecting each other, supporting each other, and ready to return to power together. That image alone, infused with emotion and humanity, could prove to be one of Donald Trump's most powerful campaign assets. In today's political battlefield, television debates and campaign rallies are no longer the only arenas where influence is measured. Power has shifted dramatically to the realm of social media, where every image, every clip, every candid moment can spread like wildfire. And in this landscape, Barron Trump is a phenomenon waiting to unfold. Each rare appearance of Donald Trump's youngest son has already proven to be magnetic. When Barron is photographed walking beside his towering father or spotted leaving an event with Melania, the images race across Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram in minutes. Headlines follow, hashtags multiply, and suddenly Barron becomes the conversation, even when he says nothing at all. This is the paradox of Barron's presence. His silence makes him louder. Because he rarely speaks publicly and has no official social media accounts of his own, every glimpse feels precious, every gesture open to interpretation. For Gen Z audiences who live and breathe TikTok trends, Barron's height, his fashion choices, even the way he carries himself, can become viral content. A single clip of him brushing his hair back or glancing at the camera could garner millions of views. And unlike the rehearsed performances of politicians, Barron's authenticity, his natural unpolished demeanor, makes the internet lean in closer. For Donald Trump's 2024 campaign, this effect is invaluable. Campaign strategists spend millions trying to engineer viral moments, but Barron's appearances generate them effortlessly. The ripple effect is massive. Younger audiences who might never attend a rally or watch a debate still encounter Barron on their feeds, and by extension, they encounter Trump. Even skeptics find themselves clicking, commenting, and sharing, feeding the very algorithm that keeps the Trump name alive and trending. In an era where attention is currency, Barron Trump is a priceless asset. He does not need to deliver speeches or engage in interviews. His presence alone is enough to captivate the digital crowd. And that presence, magnified by the speed and reach of social media, has the potential to transform Trump's campaign into not just a political movement, but a viral cultural event. For a candidate who thrives on spectacle, Barron might just be the secret ingredient that turns fleeting online moments into lasting political momentum. Every strategic move in politics comes with both opportunity and risk, and the case of Barron Trump is no exception. On one hand, his presence offers Donald Trump something that years of speeches, debates, and rallies could never quite deliver: a softer, more relatable image. For many voters, particularly those who see Trump as combative or overly aggressive, the sight of him alongside his tall, quiet teenage son could humanize him in a way no campaign ad could. It paints the picture of not just a political fighter, but a father, a man with family bonds and responsibilities who, despite his controversies, remains devoted to his role as a parent. This kind of emotional connection can be powerful in politics, helping Trump bridge the gap with undecided voters and those fatigued by years of polarization. Yet the very same move carries undeniable risks. Critics are quick to point out when politicians involve their children in campaigns, often accusing them of manipulation or exploitation. In Barron's case, the backlash could be even sharper, precisely because Melania has worked so hard to protect him from public scrutiny. A sudden shift bringing Barron into the spotlight could be seen as hypocrisy or desperation. Commentators might question whether Trump is truly showing his fatherly side, or simply using his son as a prop to gain sympathy and soften his image. The line between authenticity and opportunism is thin, and once crossed, the damage can be difficult to reverse. For Barron himself, the stakes are deeply personal. Still a teenager, he is navigating private life school and the pressures of being the child of one of the most polarizing figures in the world. Being thrust into the harsh glare of a presidential campaign could invite ridicule, memes, or unfair criticism exposure that may shape his identity long after 2024 is over. Thus, the decision is delicate. If handled with restraint, Barron could indeed become an asset, a quiet symbol of family strength and continuity. But if handled recklessly, the move could backfire, sparking criticism, eroding trust, and raising ethical questions. For Donald Trump, the challenge will be walking that fine line, proving that his son's presence is more than a campaign tactic, that it reflects something genuine about who he is, both as a leader and as a father. As we draw this story to a close, one question continues to linger in the minds of many: is Barron Trump more than just a quiet, towering presence in the background of his father's life? In the heat of the 2024 campaign, Donald Trump faces perhaps the most challenging battle of his political career. His reputation is well established, polarizing, combative, relentless. For years, his children Ivanka, Don Jr., and Eric have stepped into the public eye as loyal allies, reinforcing the Trump brand as a political dynasty. And yet, standing apart from them, almost untouched by the chaos of politics, is Barron, the youngest, the tallest, and the most enigmatic. Barron's mystery is precisely what makes him powerful. Every appearance sparks conversations, memes, and viral content. Yet behind it all, he remains a blank slate, someone onto whom people project their own ideas, hopes, or criticisms. This ambiguity gives Trump a unique strategic option, the chance to frame Barron not just as his son, but as a symbol of continuity, youth, and renewal. In a campaign where optics matter as much as policy, Barron's presence could soften Trump's hardened image, presenting him as a father figure as well as a leader. But here lies the real question: will it work? Can the quiet figure of Barron truly shift how Americans view his father? Or will he remain nothing more than a visual accessory in a larger political play? Politics is full of gambles, and this could be one of Donald Trump's boldest. To some, Barron may appear simply as a family symbol, a reminder of bloodlines and loyalty. To others, however, he could represent something larger, a hidden card, a secret weapon capable of reshaping the narrative around his father's campaign. So now we turn to you. As you followed this journey, what do you think is Barron Trump destined to remain in the shadows, a silent observer of history? Or is he perhaps the strategic wild card that Donald Trump has been keeping close to his chest, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal?